Chapter 9. After graduating from Abdelaziz Academy in Tripoli, Engineer Saif Tahir had left Libya and gone to study weapons development at the University of Paris. Skeptics scoffed at him. Of what use would that be? He told them to wait. Time would come when he would use the skill he acquired there to build real weapons for Libya. Just wait. He returned from overseas on the day the leader of Libya was celebrating his 20th year in power. The leader's opponents wanted him to tell them whether this celebration meant he would step down. Engineer Tahir dismissed them as crackpots left alone and ignored. He believed the leader had the right vision for Libya, and so was the right person to rule it. Look at what the leader had done already, he told the opponents. Had he not closed down all foreign military bases in Libya? Then had he not nationalized all foreign business in the country? The man had guts of steel. Under him, Libya would soon recapture the prestige it had enjoyed in its heyday. Look again, Engineer Tahir told the leader's opponents. A recent discovery of petroleum reserves had shown that Libya did not just have sand after all, it had oil as well. Look it again, Engineer Tahir continued. Nuclear bombs are the ultimate powers, not because they defeat offense, but because they deter it. Once the leader of Libya had grasped this point, he had not launched a program to make them, and had he not himself named the program the Feast of Allah as a warning to all that might have thought it just another human effort. Engineer Tahir joined the Feast of Allah right after his return from overseas. The time he had always dreamed about had finally come. Now he'd use his skill he had acquired to build real weapons for Libya, exactly as he had dreamt while he was still a child. In a very happy coincidence, the leader of Libya adored the Feast of Allah. He gave it all the money it asked for. Allahu Akbar. How true. Allah is great. Libya was becoming a nuclear power. It was becoming great again. Then, boom, boom, boom. Al-Qaeda struck on America's soil. The leader of Libya knew America would soon retaliate, and not necessarily with the bounds of reason. He scrambled to his bases to shield Libya from America's revenge. He even dismantled the Feast of Allah itself. Engineer Tahir would have learned to live with anything but not dismantling the Feast of Allah. The dismantling of the Feast of Allah was shirk, or sacrilege, an offense so dreadful that it was eternally unforgivable. Angry beyond words, Engineer Tahir now hated the man he had once liked. No more was the leader of Libya a hero. He had become a villain. The dismantling of the Feast of Allah coincided with the peaking of an unrelated crisis, born of an accident which by then had happened. The crisis had been brewing for more than a year. Each time it threatened to spill out, Engineer Tahir had sat on its vent and, with his full weight, forced it down again. One day, it passed out. Yet, first, what was the incident? What was the accident? Engineer Tahir had already gathered that some of his colleagues at Feast of Allah were male. Now, he learned something else. The rest were female. He fell in love with a female colleague, first to cross his field of view the next day. Life must as well have been an unpleasant chore. He felt he had to put behind him first, then hurry back to work. She was beautiful enough, big smile, big eyes, big everything really, and very kind. Her name was Rahma, Arabic for very kind. Rahma Mahmoud. She worked down the hall, the same weapons laboratory as he did, but she was his junior by a million miles. This difference in rank should have been, if not rightly, an advantage for him. Instead, it was not. He could have endured any indignity, but not rejection by a junior colleague. Therefore, he did not approach her. Then one Wednesday, spurred on by inexplicable confidence, he went to her office and took the plunge. Sabah here, he began. This was Arabic for hello, but he regretted saying it. What a bad start, he thought. Did it not make him seem to be groveling before a junior colleague? He tried again. Miss Mahmoud, let's have a bowl of tomato soup one evening. It was better, he thought. It was more assertive, more take charge. Just you and I, okay? He added. She looked up. Her big eyes were shining like the bulb. Perhaps with a fire his words had ignited, and that she was now trying to extinguish. Or maybe with a flame lit before he came, and she was still trying to kill. She did not say anything. Believing she was lost for words, he suggested 4. How about this weekend? It being a Wednesday, this meant he was serving her 3 to 4 days' notice. She gave him one of her big smiles. Its details included big teeth, white, the big gums, purple, covering her head with a veil, black. It hid her hair but left out the face, which it encircled, yet did not conceal. A loose head to foot garment, also black, shut the rest of her from the world. Her face was her only window. Saturday, perhaps, suggested Engineer Tahir. Again, she only gave him her big smile, not his answer. In addition, he got another reward. In moments of amusement, he noticed, her left cheek was capable of a dimple. He added this new finding to his previous discoveries. These were more than enough, surely. He decided to decide. Saturday it is, then. This time she actually said nothing. No. In the heat of passion, when no one reasons clearly, who has not at one time or another misinterpreted a kind word from a friend? Who has not then reacted to it with disappointment, though, in the light of subsequent reflection, laughter would have been an appropriate response? Miss Mahmoud's intention had been to conceal her eagerness to accept Engineer Tahir's offer of tomato soup by refusing it, believing that to accept it too enthusiastically would have been unseemly. By bearing her response under layers of coyness, she only sought to show that no actually meant yes. As a proper Libyan woman, she felt she had to do this thing right by letting him fill in the blanks that she had left for him to fill in. Engineer Tahir misinterpreted a sweet no as a sound no and reacted to it violently. Convinced it was a rebuff dealt to hurt him, he stormed back to his office in a fit of rage, believing Miss Mahmoud had said no to put him down. He felt humiliated by a woman who, for all her big smiles, was nevertheless his junior by many miles. Unwisely, he vowed to retaliate. As she was removing her head veil the next morning, readying for laboratory work that would have impeded, he went and slapped her. What made this assault seem reasonable was that it happened during Heritage Week, a period that the leader of Libya had set aside to give his people time to celebrate their renowned history. Apparently, then, Engineer Tahir slapped Miss Mahmoud to administer discipline on a female subordinate for shedding her head veil in public, in violation of Libyan culture. In truth, he did it to take revenge against someone who, he thought, had rejected his advances. Discipline, revenge, or whatever it in fact was, she did not take it lying down. She struck back. Had he stopped to think of the chain of events her reactions might set off, she would have restrained herself. Yet in a heat of anger, when no one thinks logically, who has not reacted by reflex and hit back on being hit first? Who has not reacted, even if, in the light of likely future consequences, turning the other cheek would have been a better response? Miss Mahmoud hit back by the reflex. A letter opener, obeying her hand, sliced through a semicircle of air and found a soft target. Its tip, sharp on the day of purchase, but sharper and sharper each day from use, caught Engineer Tahir's right in his left eye and slit it open. That was the accident. A month later, he came out of hospital. His left eye, cut open by a mundane office instrument, was gone. Turned bitter and vengeful vow. Engineer Tahir took Miss Mahmoud to court the day he came out of hospital. Why, the court inquired of him, had he slapped her in the first place to stop her from imitating Americans by shedding the head veil in violation of Libya's culture, he said. Then why, wondered the court, had she hit back? To defy not him but Libya, he replied. She pleaded innocent, citing as her defense temporary insanity caused by extreme provocation. The court returned a Hammurabic verdict, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. No, she cried. The court was not moved. I told her that she would count her blessings because the victim had not lost his teeth. However, he had lost a left eye, so her left eye had to go as well. It went early one morning. By surgery. Did vengeance buy Engineer Tahir peace? No, in fact, he was even more restless now than he had been before. He certainly was not restless about the head veil and its removal in public. Already, he said, he had lost an eye in the course of this course. This was a sacrifice enough. But were the need to arise again, he would not hesitate to offer his remaining eye as a sacrifice as well. Fanatics, a wise man said, are people who redouble their efforts after they have forgotten their aim. Engineer Tahir's aim for Libya once had been to regain the victory and the glory it had once enjoyed. Since then, he had forgotten that aim and given the feast of Allah his every effort. Now the leader of Libya had gone and dropped an axe on it. Engineer Tahir's dream of a resurgent Libya, now having been punctured, exploded beyond control. Out popped the emotional boil that had been festering inside him since the accident. Now he screamed and shouted. He calmed down, eventually of course, but only soon to sink into a deep gloom he refused to shake off. His friends tried to talk him out of it, but he waved them away. When they persisted, he left Tripoli and moved east to live alone in Benghazi. There were two reasons for Engineer Tahir's gloom. One was an object, foreign and lifeless. He got it after losing an eye in what he took to calling the accident. The other was an effect, deep and weakening. This he got when he decided to have an artificial replacement for the eye he had lost. Surgeons told him that they would plug into the eyeless socket a ball-like implant, not removable, they warned him. Then, at the outer surface of this implant, they would add an artificial eye itself. This would be a convex shell of the glass cupping over the implant snugly like contact lens. Removable, they said. So what did he think? They asked him. Proceed, he told them. They proceeded. The finished product matched with a good eye so well, in both size and color, that people took it for the original it had replaced. He should have liked it then. Although it was not capable of vision, it hid the hole in his face quite well. Instead, he hated it. Did it not remind him of the hole it hid, and tell him he had become a freak of nature permanently? How he loathed himself. He brightened out of this gloom from time to time, of course, but an air of sorrow always lingered on like an unwanted guest who might leave or might not. That was the effect that the accident had had. One evening, after brooding on the effect, Engineer Tahir ran into a green-eyed stranger at the street-side cafe. The two of them got talking mostly about history of Libya. The first foreigners to arrive in Libya, Engineer Tahir told the stranger, came from Phoenicia. The two men were chatting of a cafe. They reached out our shores in the 10th century BC, settled in the northwestern region of Tripoliania, and they established brisk commerce with the indigenous people. The stranger narrowed his brow into a question. Who were the indigenous people? They were Babas, by the way. I'm a Baba, a pure Baba. Of course. Why won't you be? Engineer Tahir slapped a sip of coffee from one of those little cups with which North African drinks its coffee. Slap. He then answered, Mr. Longway, we've just met, so why would I lie to you? I'm sorry, apologized the visitor. Please continue. Out of the Phoenicians came Greeks. One of their cities would later become this place. A hand swept through an inclusive act to show the reference was to more than a street-side cafe. This place meant Benghazi, the visitor asked. Correct, slap. Then the visitor described the mission that had brought him to Benghazi. Engineer Tahir enlisted on the spot.